Okay. Welcome everyone to the March 6th meeting of the Township of Stone Mills Council. I'll call the meeting to order, and I'll ask for approval of the agenda. Can I get a mover? Sherry and Wendy, any discussion? All in favor? Carried. Any conflicts of pecuniary interest and the general nature thereof? None declared. Minutes of the February 21st, 2023 Stone Mills regular council meeting. Can I get a motion to receive those minutes? Rob and Wenda, any discussion on the February 21st meeting? None? All in favor then? That's carried. Item 5, delegations. Beaver Lake Farmers and Artisans 2023 season. And we have a delegation from Mark Yeomans and Tracy Asselstein regarding the proposed 2023 Beaver Lake Farmers and Artisan Market season as presented. You want to come up to the table there, folks, and turn the mic on, and the floor is yours. Is the mic going there? Just press that middle button there. There you go.
Oh. Yeah, both got one.
All set.
He can have this one.
Yeah, we need it for the broadcast.
Yeah. Okay. Last year was a bit trying to listen from home. It was, yeah. So I'm Mark Humans. We were in the market last year. Thanks to Doug for putting the motion forward. It was, I guess, a trial run for the market. And this is part 2 of the continuation. So market went really well. We had on average 20 vendors per market, between 10 and 12 full-time farm vendors. So it is a farm market, and lots of traffic there. People that have never stopped, kind of vetted people as they came through, and a lot of traffic that have always sailed on by, and they're stopping, going Lakeview or to the lake. So yeah, it's really good. Went well. It would be comparable to, we do some other farmers markets, and one for instance is in its 10th year, and our numbers were in the first year right up there with the same as these other markets. So very well.
And I would just like to say I have not been involved with the market because last year, early this time of year, you set up where you're vending, and mine were full. But I really, last year was the trial year. Mark kept track of all the important things. He and I do vend at the Newburgh, so I was in contact with him what he was doing. And he has kept track of all the important things to be a true farmer's market. You need 51% farmers in attendance, and he has made sure that was the case. You said you had 9 full-time farmers?
Yeah, 9 full-time, and sometimes more. We would double up vendors on occasion.
He was in notification with the health department and the health inspector. We would like to address that there were parking complaints last year at the site. And we talked last night, and perhaps if we could get some sort of markers to identify and divide the Lakeview Tavern property, the public road that accesses houses and cottages on Beaver Lake, and then the municipal boundary, and then maybe some signage and stuff to give customers better direction as to where to park. We are asking for potential sidewalk repairs around the Aaronsville train station building. And I am not aware of a historical society in the township. Most of the historical buildings, I think, are publicly owned. But the Aaronsville train station is a municipally owned building. And I think it's worth perhaps restoring that building. And so I'm thinking of funding. And I know in the past, the community vibrancy money from the Loyola Solar project has been spent on the medical center as well as the fire department. And I think those are worthy places to spend that money. But going forward, we still have a few more years of that money. Maybe perhaps some of that could be directed towards the train station in Aaronsville, and we can restore that. And it could be like tourist information. You know, we talked about like weddings and other public gatherings that perhaps could be at that building. The farmers market in that location. Oh, and we are aware that perhaps the parkland will be secured. We're really hoping that works out. Wouldn't that be wonderful? Yeah. So there's benefits to the Lakeview Tavern, to the Beaver Lake Convenience Store, the town of Tamworth, as well as Tamworth and District Lions Club because of the farmers market being there. And personally, if we can sell our products closer to our farms, it adds sustainability to what we do. So thank you very much for hearing us tonight. We hope we get permission to continue. And we're happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mark and Tracy. Any questions or comments from council? Yes, Doug.
Yeah, I think we should address some of the points that you made. We are doing some work on the station this year, mainly inside, but we're looking at possibly there's some asbestos in it, so we're looking at making it safe to start. But we do have intentions of in the future of trying to preserve the building. Okay,
That'd be great.
We also, as you know, we're working on whether or not there's a possibility to do something with the park. Okay, so that is also a concern that may be addressed in the future for us. I think you did an excellent job there last year. The couple of times I attended, and it was well attended. And I agree with you. I think it's a great thing for the community of Aaronsville. You know, there it brings in business, and that everything's got growing pains. We got a few issues to work out. Jake, do you know of anything that we're doing this summer that would cause us a concern for them to operate again the same as they did last year?
Through your worship, I'm not aware of anything extra that wouldn't be going on at that park any other year. Councillor Davis, or sorry, Deputy Reeve Davison. In terms of I'm sure the boat races, just like they've always had. But I'm not aware of anything extra or any extra concerns that we might have there in the 2023 season.
Okay, thank you. So the parking issue, though, you mentioned, Tracy, you need some definition there somehow,
So
right?
there's a picture that we just kind of wrangled here that this is actually just in January. And what's happening, that's the actual road. Cars are parked. No definition, which is kind of looks like back parking lot, where it's in the middle of the road, right where those cars are.
Yeah, and it's nobody's fault. It's just there's no definition. Yeah, so something's got to happen there. So could we get a staff report on maybe defining the parking there, Jason, or how do you want to go about this?
Yeah, through your revise, the only point of addition I'd like to make is the property configuration in this area is also not doesn't lend itself to regularity, if I can say it that way. The provincially owned parkland, the municipally owned right of way to get access into the cottages, the Lakeview Tavern parking, et cetera. We're hoping to clarify that. Should we be able to secure that land? However, I would say, and I don't want to speak for public, however, I would say any opportunity with respect to delineation that we do would be temporary at this time, as opposed to a permanent solution, because if we make strides on property acquisition and potential redevelopment, then that could change. But back to the ultimate question of Reeve Wise, yes, I would task our Public Works Department on meeting, just as we did last year on site, Mark, and we run through the layout, we rode through parking, and we understand what potential mitigation measures we can come to to resolution for all of us, and report back to council at that in the near future before market season begins.
But I mean, I don't think it was there's a lot of complaints this year. Last year was there?
No, the phones weren't burning up, but yeah.
It's just a bit of confusion.
Yeah.
Probably the boat race weekend.
Yeah, when it's really crowded. Yeah. Rob, you had a comment or a question?
Yeah, if I can make a suggestion, obviously marking tape and so on are wonderful additions, but also I know that from looking after the ball field and Enterprise, we have access to lining machines for chalk and lime, and it's biodegradable and easy to see, and it just disappears over time, because you also have a boat launch in there to throw in the mix, right? So you got M&R Park, a laneway beside the building, then you got the road that goes to that, and then you throw a boat launch in there with trailer parking, and then you got the restaurant. So maybe something like that. I'm sure we could probably loan that out and teach you how to run it.
And it's
And I know that the larger ones hold quite a capacity of chalk, and they're great for doing the straight lines, but also we have smaller ones and you can literally write parking or put arrows or whatever. And it's only for the weekend, right? How long does your market run for?
so the market's there Friday through to Saturday.
For how long?
Well, hopefully this year, maybe forward to Thanksgiving.
Oh, okay. I wasn't aware of that. I was looking at the paperwork, but I didn't see any specifics.
Last year, I think we got started in July. We were looking for a Friday market, farm market full time, and have luck. And Sterling were the only two others. I know Harrelson's now actually doing the same thing we're doing Fridays through so. Yeah.
Okay. Sherry hasn't spoke yet, Doug, and then you.
I just had a quick thought. I wondered if it would help to have, until something more permanent is decided, have someone like with a vest on helping direct people where to go, like a volunteer. Or...
Some of them are, I mean, when they're on. Yeah, so it seems to be kind of more permanent parking for the evening, where they kind of come out into, usually what's handy about where we're set up is we have parking both sides. People pull up to the sidewalk, they get out, they come through quick, they get in their car and they leave for the most part. So it's, your busier weekends, that's going to be an issue for sure.
Doug?
I would just say I think we can give tentative approval subject to the roads department being able to come up with a satisfactory solution for marking the delineating of the lines. And I'd make that a motion.
Okay, I think Sherry jumped in there for a seconder. Any further discussion? Yes, Wenda?
Tracy mentioned about some sidewalks needing repair. So that's a risk management thing that probably should be looked at with Jeff, with the roads manager Thompson. Because you don't want to run into some kind of a legal problem with somebody tripping and falling now that, especially now that it's been brought to our awareness that there are some issues with the sidewalks back there.
Can you include that in your motion, Doug, that the sidewalk question be addressed? Yeah. Okay. Any further discussion, Crystal?
Just thank you for coming. And I think having a parking problem is a sign of the success. And, you know, that means like, we'd love to have you back. I think you'll find support around this table too. And I'm sure we can find temporary solutions to that issue. So.
And in the parking, again, I think it's kind of when the lot starts to fill up, most people coming to the farmer's market literally are doing, it's like a drive-through market, the way it's set up. They're coming in, they're going around, and they're gone, they're going to the cottage. So it's an existing problem, the parking on the south side, as you seen in the picture 3 weeks ago. So that's, I don't think is bringing any extra parking issues just per se. So just wanted to make it known that most people, when they come to the market, they're in and out, or else they go to the patio for a bit. But so.
Okay. Yes, Doug.
Just say this, we're dealing with people, and people sometimes don't think all that well or don't think there being a problem. I can tell you, I spent a lot of years on a volunteer fire department in Yorker, and more than once I had to go knock on the church door and ask somebody to come and move their car that was parked right in front of the fire hall door so you couldn't get a fire truck out. Now, you'd kind of wonder at that, but it happens. Okay.
Yeah. So any further discussion on the motion? All in favor? That's carried. Can I get a motion to receive the delegation? Sherry and Crystal Lee, any discussion? All in favor? That's carried. Now I have one more question, which you might not appreciate. Did the vendors pay any fee last year?
What we did was $10 per vendor, and that just kind of holds them accountable to their spot. Otherwise, you get people showing up, and then what we did with that money was we donated $500 to the Lions Christmas baskets, and then $500 to New Legacy. We used $300 in signage and some Facebook ads and whatnot. So yeah, it just it seems to be, if you don't have a fee of some sorts, it just becomes people show up, but if they're locked in with a fee and that their spot's taken, it seems to work well.
Thanks for clarifying that. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Okay, number 6 on the agenda is bylaws and resolutions. Stone Mills 23 municipal budget bylaw to establish tax rate for the year. The motion would be that bylaw 2023, yet to be numbered, being a bylaw to establish a municipal budget and tax rates for the 2023 calendar year, be read a second time. Can someone put that motion on the floor, please? Sherry and Wenda, any discussion? Yes, Wenda.
Do we have any idea yet what the county rate is going to be? I know the school rate is already in there, but has county decided what their increase is going to be?
Well, we haven't finalized the budget yet, but we're a long way into the process, and it looks like it'll be a little under 5%, much the same as our municipal increase.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Any further discussion? I'll call the question then. All in favor? That's carried. Yeah, we got a budget. That was just second reading? The process drags on. Okay, okay. Under staff reports, Manager of Public Works isn't here, so Jason will present item D. This is D1 Turcotte Road. And the motion would be that council receives the report and attachments provided by Cowell Law Offices, and further, the council approves and directs staff to complete the legal road transfer of Turcotte Road to the Township of Stone Mills. Can I get this on the floor with a motion, please? Sherry and Rob, and go ahead, Jason.
Thank you, Reeve Wise. In the absence of Public Works Manager Thompson, I'm happy to overview, as him and I have worked together on this item with Cowell Law. And on the screen behind you, you'll see a sketch. It's also in your agenda package, which tries to graphically show this property. Essentially, what we're seeking to the applicant do is complete a survey so that we can transfer the actual ownership of Turcotte Road, road allowance, into the municipality's name. It's a forced road that's navigated a property for ever in its day, and it's not legally surveyed nor legally in our name. So the liability is somewhat questionable. One thing that's interesting to note is that the entirety of the road is not maintained. So as you can see, the green that is maintained section, the first portion, and the red section is not maintained. And you may wonder who maintains this, and it's not us, it's the town. It's a joint agreement that we use with many of our neighboring municipalities in these types of situations, and they'll continue to do so. There's no change with respect to that. This is merely a legal liability and paperwork exercise, if you will, to convey this into our ownership. But when that comes forward in the future, this is for council's awareness that the green portion would be opened and dedicated by bylaw as a public road, whereas the red would not, similar to what we've seen off Vardy Lake Road in Lou and or off Bethel Road in our southern portion of the municipality. So I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Questions or comments? Yes, Doug.
Yeah, I'm trying to understand the rationale behind this, why it's coming up now, why we're getting involved in it. In all my years on council, I cannot remember us ever putting a penny into this road, nor can I ever remember ever seeing anything that actually said this was our road. I know it's been implied it was ours. It doesn't follow a concession line. It doesn't do anything that's normal to the 1878 plan of subdivision, for the township of Camden Stone or Sheffield Stone Mills now, so I am still not convinced that this is our road, nor am I convinced that we should be taking it over, because that's where it's going to end up. I firmly believe once we name this a road, then there'll be a request for severances on it. And this is in the very north corner of our township. I'm not just sure that this is the right thing to do at this time. I have never heard of us ever expending a penny on this road. Have you got any different information for that?
Go ahead, Jason.
Through your wise, I wish Public Works Manager Thompson were here because I'm obviously not the expert on this. However, it's been relayed to me that he, in his time in the municipality, has always expended money on this road by way of gravel grading, in largely association with Tweed, because Tweed municipality does that for us in an agreement. That being said, Deputy Reeve Davison, to your question of why this is maybe before you today, is it's a land transfer. This property is going to be sold, and it was a liability question that was brought forth by their legal counsel as part of that, and wanted it clarified and cleaned before it transferred ownerships. So that's the rationale behind why this would be coming to us today as opposed to any other given day in time.
I agree with you. I wish the road superintendent was here because I would really like him to explain it to us, because we can't even get to that road. We have to drive into another municipality to get to it. And like I say, I've never seen a bill in 40 some years of sitting here. I've never seen a bill from anybody for work on that road. So
Maybe we should defer it, Doug.
That's what I'm wondering, if
Discussion
we
is
can
fruitless
defer it.
without
Yep,
Jeff here, so. Do we need a motion to defer it?
I'll
Yeah,
move it.
okay. Doug's moved it. Crystal Lee second. All in favor? Let's move on. Okay. Section 2, Municipal Forest Fire Management Agreement. And we don't have our fire people here. Can you take this one, Jason? So this is just a renewal of an agreement that we've had many times with the ministry. The motion would be that we receive this report and the council approve the signing of the management agreement. Can someone put this on the floor for me, please? Sherry and Crystal Lee. Any discussion? Do you want to say anything, Jason?
Through your Eve-wise. No, I have nothing further to add aside from the fact it's a reoccurring term with MNRF respecting lands in conjunction to their operations and ours for firefighting purposes.
Yeah, we've done this forever. Anyone have any questions about it? All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Chief Building Official Detler, potential adoption of development charges bylaw. The motion would be that we receive this presentation and further that council direct management to issue a request for proposals seeking a consultant to complete a development charges background survey. Can I get a motion to introduce this? Wendy? Seconder, Sherry? Jake, go ahead.
Thank you, Your Worship. Yeah, this is something management's been working on now, and we've talked about at budget times and in past years. Under consideration is maybe a place we want to go to help try to pay for some of the costs that we find ourselves into, and this is developmental charges can help us in a variety of ways. At budget time, you can spend it on, there are some limitations of what things you can spend it on, but certainly if you review the document, there are plenty of different ways we could spend potential revenues from this. And there are some significant new development proposals coming our way in the future, and some of them actually, is already underway, which would bring a lot more development and the potential for a lot more revenue through development charges. This is quite a topic. At this point in time, you're not really approving anything except for doing a background study, and that study would bring forth recommendations on what a qualified person objectively thinks that our DC bylaw should look like. So in that time, council will be able to review that and give your opinions on what that study comes forward and suggests. So happy to take questions.
Okay, Jason has a comment.
Thank you. Thanks, Jake. Appreciate that overview. And just one further piece of information for council. There are two essentially statutory obligations of a municipality when considering a development charge bylaw, and that's a comprehensive background study and a statutory public meeting with a minimum of 60 days public notice. So this is essentially the very beginning of what we may, should we choose to go down this route, have with a discussion perspective regarding development charges, getting a RFP issued, getting potential meetings and understanding what our costs may be for applicable DCs given capital assets is really the idea for this information report is before you this evening. Thanks.
Any discussion? Wenda.
Through you, Reeve-wise, for Jason Sands, or Jake maybe, I'm just wondering why we don't have developmental charges bylaw. What's the backstory to that?
Go ahead.
Your Worship, if I may. Councilor Lalonde, I asked the exact question when I started here 4 years ago. And the reason that was explained to me was the vision was that additional costs would preclude or curb future development. So the idea was to try to keep costs as low as possible in terms of with respect to the building. the building realm. So like building inspection fees and permit fees and DCs. And the more that would layer on, you would see a less volume of new builds. So that was really the idea that I understood historically in Stone Mills as to why we do not or did not collect DCs.
Thanks, Jason. Anyone else? Okay, I think it's a good idea to have a report, as you say, an objective report, and this will get the ball rolling. All in favor? It's carried. Thank you. Committee board reports and minutes. I don't have anything. Does anyone have anything under that section? No. Items for consideration, April 17th council meeting cancellation. That council cancel the April 17th meeting given staff and council attendance at Ontario Good Roads Conference. Do we need a motion for that, Jason? Okay, can I get a motion for that? Sherry? Wendy, any discussion? All in favor? That's carried. Items for information. A is Bill 23, Conservation Authority Scope of Work Information. The council received this correspondence for information purposes. Can I get a mover? Sherry? And Krista Lee, any discussion? Yes, Wenda. Sherry and I think Wendy or Krista Lee seconded that. Yeah. Did you find it, Wenda? Okay, go ahead.
Just two questions through you revised to Jason, or I think Jason. So one question is, it says in the document, looking further ahead, agreements with municipalities for category 2 and 3 programs. Could you just elaborate what category 2 and 3 programs would entail?
Just bear with me.
Yeah.
Your worship.
It's near the end. It's really close to the end.
Through you, your worship, just trying to refresh myself, category 2 and 3. And I don't know it off the top of my head, but I'm willing to confirm at this point that what they are referring to, Councillor Lalonde, are categories in which the province still allows the jurisdiction of the Conservation Authority to be applicable. So I presume that to be natural hazard lands, for example, karst topography, floodplain, dynamic beaches, etc. Really, what the intent of that comment was, we've historically always had partnership and agreements and memorandum of understandings with our partners in the Conservation Authority's worlds with respect to what they provide at an arm's length to us as a municipality. And given these legislative changes as of January 1, we seek amendment to some of those. So that's what I suspect, without getting into the detail, finer detail of what would be a category 2 or category 3 definition.
Yeah, go ahead, Wenda.
Just below that, there's a chart, or maybe on the next document. And near the bottom, one of the things it says is special policy areas still falls within the scope. What would be the special policy areas? Would that still pertain, policies pertaining to what you've just described? It's the very last item on the chart. Plan review components.
Through you, your worship. No, what Councillor Lalonde was describing would be more in the top portion of this chart. Hazardous lands, inland lakes, for example, hazardous sites, wetlands, they're all included and still within their scope. Special policy areas, off the top of my head, I can't think of one in Ontario that would be applicable here in Stone Mills Township.
This may have something to do with like one of the special areas is the Lake Simcoe area, where there are policies that applies only to that area. It's nothing to do with us.
Yeah. The Oak Ridge
Yeah.
Marine, maybe?
The Oak Ridge is marine.
Right.
Yeah, these would be special policy areas where there are unique features that apply to a fairly large region, so they warrant their own special consideration. Anyone else with questions or comments on this item? I would just say a word or two. The dust hasn't entirely cleared on the province and conservation authorities. We still don't know what will happen with Section 28 regs. These are where the Conservation Authority will comment on things like minor variances. Jake and Jason could list all the sorts of things. That may be changing too. At this point, the CA will still provide input on that. It seems to be more in terms of planning that there are restrictions, but they don't seem to be quite as onerous as we were first led to believe at this point. CAs will still be commenting on floodplains, hazardous lands like karst topography, and wetlands, despite earlier fears. All those will still warrant a comment from conservation authorities. What isn't clear is how provincially significant wetlands may or may not continue to be designated. It seems to be a fairly simple process to de-designate provincially significant wetlands. So that could be a concern going forward, but it's somewhat reassuring in any case that the core comments on genuinely on areas of genuine concern that we will still have CA input. We won't have it on hydrogeology, right, Jason? We've already retained private consultant in that regard.
That's right. Revised. The biggest two changes that we see since January 1 are the hydrogeology peer review and the environmental impact assessment peer review.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. The AAA one is a big one too. So that's somewhat reassuring in any case. We'll see what further changes the province may impose going forward. So did I get a mover and seconder for this item? I did? Kristen Sherry. Okay. All in favor? That's carried. Okay. Also, there's a letter from Wayne Goodyear. Can I get a motion to receive that? And Rob, any discussion? Yes, Jason.
Your Worship, the only piece I'd like to add was there was another printed letter I put at everybody's desk this evening, sent on behalf of Friends of the Napanee River. I believe it was also sent electronically. I just wanted to make sure it's not in your agenda package, so I just wanted to make sure that everyone had received a copy. Thanks.
Okay. And any discussion on these items? Yes, Doug.
I think at this time we should receive them and for further review.
Okay. All right, then I'll just call the vote. All in favor? That's carried. Further to that, though, what budget and some other issues of some kind of terms report on an environmental committee, which we agreed in principle to, I think, at one point.
Through Your Worship, it's slow to the gate. It's been a focus on budget, as you mentioned, and our CAO's absence at this point. We've not made large headway aside from completing a review of some of the examples in which we received at the previous delegation from the Friends, respecting neighboring municipalities and what their committee's composition are.
Okay, thank you. New business and statements from members. Doug, go ahead.
As you all know, I missed the last council meeting with a bad knee, so I wasn't here, but I was in attendance for through the magic of media. And there was also a meeting before that where I attended by Zoom, and that's what I want to comment on. That meeting was a disaster for me, okay? And I'm sure it was a disaster for you too, to hand the computer around in front of everybody. And to be quite honest with you, I could only hear the person who had the computer. Anything else was a mumble. So I had no idea what else was being said in the meeting. And I raised this just for a question. As it's allowed now to do that, that process will not work for us. I mean, so we need to go back to the drawing board on that one a little bit, because there certainly would have not have been any adequate input, being able to go, somebody carrying a computer around to have a speaker in front of everybody. So I just brought it up for information purpose. If you'd have been the one on the Zoom, you would have just wondered what, I could hear Jason and Jeff when they were talking. I heard Brian for 2 minutes, and everything else was just a low key mumble, to be quite honest with you. So we need to look at a different way to make that work. And it may be that everybody would have to be on Zoom. Okay, so that the voices went through the speakers like they are if we're at home. So, that may be the only way to work, but the process as we did it that night didn't work well. I just thought I'd bring it up and let everybody know so that the expectation isn't there that that's the system we're going to use. No, thank you.
Yeah, maybe we should do some kind of test run or something.
Yeah, that one didn't work. I
Yeah.
talked to Brian too already about
Yeah.
it, and Brian asked me to make sure that everybody was aware. So I think that the thinking caps need to go back on. And
Mhm.
right now, the only thinking cap I got is everybody would have to be on
Yeah.
Zoom, I think.
Yeah.
One person on Zoom didn't work.
Yeah,
Yep.
okay. Yes, Rob?
Actually, I've got something here, John. I'd like to make a motion for reconsideration under section 11 of our procedural bylaw. During a previous meeting, I voted in favor of waiving the $1,491.88 to the county. And that was the money that they're going to pay us for the part of 2832 County Road 1. I voted that way because I was under the impression that we were, by waiving this, we might be getting our park into speed mode, so to say, getting it moving. And I thought that held some value. I was incorrect. It doesn't make any real difference. And after a little bit of research, I erred in judgment. So I believe we owe it to the ratepayers to pick up that money that's lying on the ground. It's that straightforward. So I actually wrote this down. Essentially, I see if I saw $1,491.88 in the ground, we should stop and pick it up on behalf of those who put us in these chairs. So I'd like to make that motion.
I second it. That's, and can I comment? I felt the same with Rob when you had that hesitation. But what I'd also like to suggest is that we don't just add it to reserves or something. I think we should do something with it like an art and culture grant, maybe for musical performances in that parquet in the summer, once the parquet is there, or something like that. Maybe it's a public art grant or musical performance. That's where I think that money no longer seems insignificant. It can really make something. And I think that's what I'd like to see happen.
So what's the procedural steps we have to take here, Jason? Do we have to rescind the previous motion before we have a new one?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it has to be someone who, you moved the original. Yeah, and I forget who second. Did you second it? Okay, so we'll assume that the mover and seconder are willing to rescind. So that's the first thing we have to do. We have to pass that. So can you withdraw the motion you just made at this point? Make one to rescind, and then we'll vote on that. And then we can vote on,
I'd like to make a motion to rescind.
okay, Sherry?
I'll second that.
Yeah.
Can I say something at some
Yes, of course.
right now?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
I just wanted to say, the reason, if I seconded it, I can't remember if I made the motion or seconded it, but was because I understood that we were getting some new sidewalks out of it. So that's where my thought was coming from. So that's all I want to say.
Okay. Yeah, Jason's just looking up the original motion here, so we should do this properly.
Milligan and Fenwick. Moved by Milligan, seconded by Fenwick.
Okay, so we'll just switch those. So Sherry is moving and Rob is seconding that we rescind motion number 10-500-2018 about land disposition to Lennox and Annie County. All in favor? That's carried.
I don't think I can vote on that.
Yeah, because you weren't here.
No.
Yeah. Okay, now the floor is open, so you can reframe your.
I'll
your
read it
motion.
again, folks.
Read that again.
I would like to make a motion for reconsideration under section 11 of our procedural bylaw. During a previous meeting, I voted in favor of waiving the $1,491.88 to the county that they would pay us for a piece of land in Camden East at 2832 County Road 1. I voted as such because I was under the impression that waiving this might speed up the process of getting our park area underway, something that I held value in. I now know I was incorrect, and due to lack of information on my part, therefore I erred in judgment with my vote. I believe we owe it to the right payers of Stone Mills to make any and all efforts to collect monies owed, especially when there is no advantage to the ratepayer by not to doing so. Essentially, if I saw $1,491.88 on the ground, we should stop and pick it up on behalf of those who put us in these chairs. It's quite simple. I hope you support me in this motion.
So just to make sure your motion is fully clear, you are requesting that we accept the payment of $1,400 and whatever it is. Okay, and Sherry, do you want to? It doesn't matter who seconds. I think Crystal Lee, you were seconding it, were you not? Okay, and Crystal Lee was perhaps seeking to amend your motion to actually direct where those funds go, or would you rather make that a motion?
A separate motion?
Sure, we can do it after this one.
Yeah.
It'll simplify things.
Yeah, I think it will make
Okay.
it more clear.
Okay, all in favor of the, no further discussion? Go ahead.
So I just want to go back to Sherry's comment about sidewalks. So are we gaining on this or losing on this? Is there going to be?
Well, they're still going to build the
loss.
sidewalks.
But are they going to
We aren't-
charge us 5,000 to build a sidewalk?
No.
No, okay. I just wanted clarification on that.
No. Yeah, go ahead, Doug.
I'm going to be a little long-winded. As I said, I watched this on media, and maybe it's a good thing I wasn't here. Okay, I would not have supported this motion. I don't understand where it come from or whatever, but unfortunately, I couldn't say anything or do anything. No, there's no loss to us. There was no, I don't understand it. The county has a process where they pay for the land for new sidewalks in their process. We do not lose anything other than of the sidewalk stepping inside of the park. So there's no downside to us. And I'll be very clear, the bulk of the county money comes from different municipalities, so why would we give it away? Okay. But I'm going to take it one step farther, and this might answer Krista's comments. Okay. At the last council meeting, you give away, rightfully so, no problem, some money to Mr. Robert Storings for a request that was not in the budget. All year, you will get requests for things like that. They will come forward to us at different times for different events. Not everything can be actually covered in the budget, you know. So these funds are a great thing to put back in the budget to cover those events. So that, because remember, we struggled to get a budget from over 6% down to 4.5%, you know, so we need, Rob's right, we need to take every penny we can into account here. So I would hope that we would just do that at this time and not earmark it, because there will be other requests come forward for it, okay?
Okay, so the motion on the floor is simply to accept that payment. All in favor? That's carried. Did you want to make a motion for the disposal of those funds?
At the time when we were giving away the money, I was like, this is what we should do with it rather than, you know, do nothing with it. But I'm happy to accept what Doug has to say on that. I do think in our strategic planning, I'm going to bring art and culture as a priority, but I think that can wait. And I agree that, you know, we're going to have other requests and, you know, might as well have the money there to support other community events that are already happening. So.
Can we add to that motion that it be directed to general reserves at this time? So we'll just take that as a given. We don't have to redo it. Okay. Yeah, Jason's just dotting the i's here. So I think that covers the open session agenda. Now, do you want to wrap this meeting and then go into closed session? So I need a confirming bylaw, Doug. and Sherry, all in favor? Motion to adjourn. Doug and Wenda, carried. Thank you. So we are going to be, we'll take 5. We're going to be moving into a closed session, matters accordance with section 239 of the Municipal Act, personnel matters, proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land, and a position plan procedure criteria.